good day. I know I'm late. I'm one of the last persons probably reporting on it, and everybody already knows. She looks good in stripes, right? Yeah, she got found guilty on Kouri Richins. Got found guilty on all charges, all the way down the line. Um, court final closing arguments ended late in the afternoon, and they asked the jury whether they wanted to stay or go home and come back in the morning and start deliberating. And the jury said, "Oh, we'll stay." And 3 hours later, 3 hours later, she's pretty much going to be gone for life. Sentencing isn't for a couple more weeks yet, or even longer than that. But anyhow, she's not going anywhere. She's in the Huskow, and for the rest of her life for murder, for personal gain, forgery, some other financial crimes. But the big one, she got nailed for killing him, and she even got nailed for attempting to kill him on the first try. When she first tried to kill him, and he got sick, but he got better. They nailed him for attempted murder on that one, and then also got her for murder when she succeeded. But anyhow, I know that's old news. I'm just going to, throw in a couple of inputs from the closing arguments that I thought were interesting and worthwhile. Here's a prosecuting attorney. He has on his board there. He's got means, motive, and opportunity. Well, it's who, how, when, and why is way down here. Why is the least. You can actually, as long as you have who, how, and when, you can convict on that. That's what you primarily are. The why is usually, who cares why, generally. So, I kind of not happy with that board. But the same token, what he's doing is he's pushing motive further up because that's what they're using for what she did and putting motivation up for doing it. But again, all you have to do is prove who, how, and why. Or, who, how, where. Why is way down there, but he wanted why further up, and I understand because her reasons for killing were personal gain, which is a big why. But again, I can see what he did. I just want to point out that this, who, how, and when are the ones you need. Motive is way on the bottom. But anyhow, that's further down the line. One thing I have never seen in courts, and I've been watching a lot of court trials on TV and stuff, but one thing I have never seen that the prosecution used as an example of well, I'll come to it in a minute. Anyhow, I have never seen anything like this in my life. Who resorts to elephant shit and the image of someone who was standing behind them? It's circumstantial evidence. That kind of shows circumstantial evidence that somebody was behind the elephant when he had diarrhea, pretty severe diarrhea, because elephants usually, just like a cow, it usually doesn't. But anyhow, this one had some illness, but this is what they use for circumstantial evidence. It shows pretty well that, obviously somebody was behind the evidence of someone. You don't see somebody, but you pretty well know somebody was standing behind the elephant when bad things happen. I have never seen anything like that in court. That's gross. Okay, yeah, courts, there's murder and all this stuff, but I've never seen anyone use, in their closing arguments, a slide showing that. That's a wow. That's a big wow. Let's see if I can. Oops, sorry. There we go. Now here's the next one. Now this was used by the defense in closing arguments. A get out of jail free card. They went there. They played this. That she doesn't need to go into jail. She deserves sympathy for some of the actions that happen, and she's a victim. So, the context of actually, pointing out jail when you're trying to defend your client and trying to point out, oh, get out of jail free card. You're not really helping you're not really helping your defense at all. You kind of lose it on that one. You're kind of pointing out exactly what you don't want to point out. Um, you know, you might as well just use this card. But again, I've never seen elephant flatulence. Well, not flatulence. That's straight up massive diarrhea, and get out of jail free card being used in final arguments. But yeah, that's the more appropriate card, and she had to go to jail, go directly to jail, and she ain't collecting anything. All of this is done for money, money, and money, and she's going to jail and ain't got no money. If she didn't do all the financial crimes she did, it would not have necessarily been pointed in her direction as to what happened to him as quickly as it did. They may not have done a toxicology on them. Who knows? It's someone who died mysteriously in the night. They probably still would have done it. But anyhow, when you look at her finances, how screwed up they were, her accounting, her robbing Paul to pay Peter, even though she's in debt to John and Luke, she was, that was enough evidence as it was. But anyhow, this is absolutely more accurate. And yeah, she's got stripes, and she's going to remain in stripes for a very long time. Sentencing isn't for a while, but anyhow, I know I'm late. I was going to say, make this short. Guilty on all charges, and some of the most interesting closing arguments I've ever seen. I mean, prosecution did tie up some, put some bows on some of the package that needed to be done, because case-wise, as I said earlier in the video, it was kind of like, who knows, is prosecution doing the defense and the defense doing the prosecution? It got confusing, and he laid down a lot of things, but he didn't wrap it up, didn't bring it all together in a conclusion, which he finally did in closing arguments. But just like opening arguments and closing arguments, anything they say is not fact. It cannot be held as evidence. They can say, well, they can't say whatever they want, but they can say all kinds of things in opening arguments and closing arguments, and that's not fact. That's not. You can't take that to the. You can't take that to the. For the jury, can't take any value to it at all. Just basically like ignore it. Opening and closing is just to give you an idea of what's coming and what supposedly happened, and refresh your mind on it. But anything they say is not evidence, so you can't take that to the jury room and go, "What he said during actually even during court." What a lawyer says is not evidence. It has to come from the witness stand and evidence displayed. And like if you got the murder weapon, you showed a murder weapon, that's evidence. A police officer saying, I took this firearm from their hand, that's evidence. It's linking, the gun to the person, so we have the provenance. But the lawyer saying, well, this is the gun that killed him, firearm, so I know YouTube, well, I don't have enough people watching, so YouTube's not going to really get me for anything yet. But anyhow, when I do, I have to say the bang, bang, which is something I never want to do. But anyhow, that would link, the firearm evidence. The police officer testifies that he took the weapon off of the accused. So there's the link, and that's all evidence. Lawyer saying, is that the murder weapon, or that is the murder weapon? Throw it out. I mean, what the lawyer said, just blank it out. You didn't hear it because that's not important. It's the officer saying that's showing the gun, saying that's the gun. And that, those are facts. That's stuff you can't, that's stuff you can take with you to the jury room. But anyhow, I'm going to keep this short, so we'll wind it up. She's going to jail for a long, long time. Don't do crime. Don't. Also, don't do Google searches. I forgot. Oh, I forgot to mention that in some of the earlier cases. She actually did a Google search for jails for rich people. Or prisons. Don't commit a crime and then Google search. Again, Google searches will kill you every time. Don't do Google searches. Well, if you're going to do one, again, go to a public library where they have lots of computers and you can log in anonymously and do your search. Granted, they may be able to track you on camera in the library and see you using a computer, but linking that to you might be a little more difficult than if you're using your home computer or your home laptop and looking up Googling, prisons for wealthy people. Or, how long does it take for this poison to kill somebody before you kill them? Or, Googling how long to die in cold. And anyhow, bye, folks. See you in the funnies.